Hello, hello, hello. It is I, and it is very late at the time of me recording this, so I am trying to be a little quiet and responsible, but we'll see what happens. So, you saw the title, you saw the cover card. This is a continuation of the videos that we've already made, which was just, getting comfortable with psychic energy, with your own psychic energy, with feeling energy, with sensing energy. So, this is one in many of a series about different types of psychic gifts that you can expand upon and explore within yourself. And this video is about remote viewing. Now, remote viewing, if you do not know, is, I suppose it could be a subcategory of the clairvoyance psychic gift. Clairvoyance is psychic sight. And remote viewing definitely relies on sight, although there are other ways of remote viewing, which would be more like remote tasting, remote touching, remote hearing. And that would essentially be what I'm going to describe as remote viewing, but through a different sense. You'll see. So, remote viewing is when you can see what is going on in a place that is not where you were at this current time. We're not seeing into the past, we're not seeing into the future. We are seeing the present. And we are seeing the present that is not in our current space, because we can perceive that right now, non-psychically. So, why do I always play with my hair in these videos? Okay, so, ways to get started with remote viewing, if it is something that hasn't already jumped out to you. You may already be experiencing remote viewing. But if not, here are some ways on how. So, piggybacking off that last video, it is important that you are at a point now that you know how to sense energy. Be that tasting it, touching it, feeling it, smelling it, anything, any of your senses. So once you have gotten comfortable with the idea of feeling energy, knowing how energy feels to you, how you perceive it. I'm a feeler. Once you feel it or perceive it in any way, and you're comfortable with that, you can kind of turn that on and off. That's when I would say let's move on to something like remote viewing. Remote viewing is pretty advanced. It has been condoned and used by the militaries of the world for probably forever. But the US government recently put out some documents. They released some documents about how they still use remote viewing. So that's interesting, to fight wars. And anywho, remote viewing, what you're going to want to do is get yourself into a place where you're comfortable. I know some people say that you need silence. That's not necessary. That's not necessarily true. Some people thrive on chaotic energy, on noise. So wherever your comfortable place is, get there. And I do recommend not having any electricity around you on your first attempts at remote viewing. I find electricity or electrical energy such as lights and machines to be distractions or confusing early on when you are trying to project your psychic energy beyond your natural aura. It can get a little scrambly, a little staticky, pun intended, if you will. You may not have that experience, but for me, electrical energy is extremely distracting and sometimes painful to interact with on an energetic level. So, get into your space, get into, your moment, your trance, or your whatevers. The more you do this, the more you'll be able to just switch to it. If you are an advanced magician of any type, you're probably already at that point where you don't really need to sit for very long and focus on letting go. You kind of just already have that magic switch within you where you're like, all right, I'm here, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do whatever we have to do. And if you're not there, if you are watching this and you are a beginner psychic or a beginner magician of any kind, you will get there. And then again, you may be very gifted and you're already there. Now, the first thing I like to do before actually engaging in remote viewing, for whatever your purposes are for remote viewing, it could just be for fun. I like to first kind of pique my imagination. So I may have a destination in mind of what I want to see. So maybe I want to see at this moment what my friend is doing at their house. And again, this can bring up ethical and moral debates. Have that debate somewhere else, not right here. So, say I want to look in on my friend who lives, we'll say, in another country even. We'll say very far away. And I've never been there and met them. So what I'm going to do is just imagine what it must be like and what they're probably doing right now. And I will create that image in my mind and kind of play through it, kind of like a child does with role play, where I will envision my spirit leaving my body kind of like a little ghost, a cartoon ghost, that goes and swoops through their house and is like, okay, this is what it looks like, this is what they're doing, interesting. And then coming back to my body. And that's purely just in my imagination. I purely make it up. I guide that vision because I'm creating it. I might do that a couple of times just to get myself comfortable with the idea of what I'm going to do outside of my imagination. So once I get that kind of level of competence and security, then I will begin my ascent or projection. So remote viewing does not necessarily have to coincide with astral projection, which will be another video, but it can. I think it's all about your approach. Do you want to see what is going on over there, or do you want to actually go and visit it and see? That would be two different things. So for this, we'll just focus on like, I'm staying here and I'm just looking in. So let's talk about portals. A portal, you know what a portal is. Again, this can be something that you imagine first, creating a portal. You may think of a certain shape or color and it existing in this three-dimensional space and you opening it up. You may do it with a symbol and it appears in your imagination. You may be ripping open the fabric of reality. You can do whatever you like, but come up with some kind of image that is a trigger for you for opening a portal in your imagination. For me, it's a triangle. That came to me instinctually over time as I did remote viewing. The first memories I have of remote viewing consciously were around 14, 15, and I remember trying to look in on a neighbor that we had who was a very nosy neighbor. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to be the nosy neighbor. And I attempted to remote view into her home. And immediately I remember seeing a lot of blue light and white light. And it was circular at first. And I remember it was almost like it was a blue and white cloud that covered my vision. And as it opened within the space inside this blue and white energy, I saw the inside of her home. Now this was all in my mind's eye. And I remember seeing inside, seeing the living room, seeing into her kitchen, seeing her washing dishes. And I remember pulling back and being like, whoa, that felt really real. Like I could hear the TV in her house. It felt very real. And so I said, I'm going to try it again. So I remember sitting there for a while and being like, oh, like kind of freaking out and be like, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again. And I remember doing it again. And then here she was coming out of her, what would have been her bedroom, I suppose, out into the edge of the hallway that enters into her living room. And her coming in and then taking the vacuum and turning it on and beginning to vacuum. Obviously, she must have been doing chores this day. And it was just for a second, like a second. And I remember seeing her vacuum, and then I came back again. And that was my first experiences. So it doesn't always have to be something grand that you're seeing. Don't expect to do remote viewing and suddenly find out some deep secrets of someone doing something forbidden or something. That might happen. That might be your intent. But at the beginning, I think it's important to focus on very mundane things and not to expect a lot, It's just practicing doing it at first. You're not trying to really glean any information from it at first. You're just practicing doing it. So anywho, come up with some kind of a portal idea. That is my suggestion. You may go about remote viewing in a different way, but this is my tip for you. So create some kind of portal imagery in your imagination. Now, take some deep breaths as always. That's a cliche, but do it once you've established your sacred space. Deep breaths. I like to close my eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. You can do it totally with your eyes open. But I like to close my eyes, and then I begin to imagine this energy in front of me. Again, we're imagining it. I'm thinking of the colors or the symbol that I have pictured in my mind. And now I'm making the conscious decision to actually bring it into reality. I'm picturing an image in my mind coming forth into this three-dimensional space, and I shape it. I feel it. It feels thick. And then I slowly open the portal. And from there, I see things. I receive things. I may receive smells, sounds, feelings on my skin. I may suddenly just know things. I may see people, colors. I may see bookshelves and staircases. I may suddenly be seeing the layout of a home I've never seen. I do whatever I need to do, consciously wanting to push myself through the space, going through the home as far as I think I can. And when I'm ready to leave, I pull back. I imagine the energy closing, and returning to me. And then I remember that I'm in my chair. I'm in my home. All of my energy is with me. And I'm here. And that's essentially it. But after you do it a lot, over and over and over, it becomes more and more powerful of a ritual. That's with all things. That's with magic. And it's the same thing with psychicness. Psychic powers and magic powers kind of follow the same formulas a lot of the time. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the more confident you become in it. And the less you have to use your imagination, and the more visions and things just start happening to you. So, that's my quick tips for remote viewing. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check me out on Facebook where you can book readings with me. Thank you so much. Namaste, Ashe, and Amen.